Hello, my name is Kit Purple, and I'm going to be creating my first YouTube video for some friends who are at Sooner Plant Farm, and that's Brian and Marcia Kojenki, who are the owners, and Colin McKins, who's the sales manager. And I've been talking about doing a flyover their place and demonstrating the Microsoft Flight Simulator, and I thought they would enjoy this, and we'll practicing, experimenting, trying to do my first video, and hope that my mistakes don't come out too bad. They don't really come down hard on me for getting boo-boos, because now everybody will see my boo-boos. This is where we're at. Their location is in Hatbox, and that's where we're going to start off at. This right here, Sooner Plant Farm, is the actual location it will be flying to, and that's at a place called Park Hill, Oklahoma, and we're going to be going from west to east. So we're going to start here, come down to this KMKO airport, and then go up to Fort Gibson, over to Kaluka, down to Sooner Plant Farm. I'll probably pause the plane, get out in the drone, and take a look at what's going on. Then come down, follow this river system here, 10 Killer Ferry. Just follow it down, look at the scenery. Come down here to, I guess that's Roberts Cares Reservoir, and work my way back up to Salisal, and eventually over to Fort Smith, and land at Fort Smith Regional Airport. So that's the flight plan. I've created that in this little program called Little Nav Map. It's free, and once you learn to do it, it's pretty simple. There are many programs out there who can create flight plans. Some you pay for, some you don't. And this one's easy because when I'm done, I can save it off as a flight plan and then bring it in to the flight simulator. And this is the Microsoft Flight Simulator, basically the home screen, and bring it in here and load it in without having to do a lot of work on the actual GPS system inside the plane. So today we're going to be flying in the Diamond DA40NG, and I'm going to go into this world map right here, and I've already picked the plane. And you do that by choosing your aircraft, and I picked the Diamond Aircraft 40NG. It'll do 135 knots cruising speed. It'll do close to 160, but it long distance cruise to get the maximum mileage range. That's the speed, and that's the maximum altitude it'll do. And you can get a 6-hour flight if you're running about 75-80% of full throttle. So I chose this particular library. It's called the Diamond World Tour library. And weights and balances, well, we're only really going 110 nautical miles. I'm going to just give it about 2/3 a tank of gas. And failures and the customization. Let's just say that on this plane, we're going to give the name of Jesus. He'll be flying with us today. That's our tail number. And that is turned on, show the tail number. So we will go with this, come back to here, close that, and we will pick a runway to start. And I kind of doing that from this right here, which is KAHX is the name of the runway. I can just do here KAHX. But to make it a little bit easier, because I'm flying a Garmin 1000, I'm going to load in a flight plan I've already made from all these waypoints right here in Little Nav Map. So we'll pull that out of the way, and I'll just hit the space bar here for more. I'm going to load from this PC because I saved it to this PC. Could have saved it in the cloud. And it's a flight plan, and I called it Sooner Plant Farm Trip. So here we go. It's going to be loaded up. It's in here. Now, at the beginning here, it wants me by default to start on the runway with the motors running. and I wanted to just kind of demonstrate a little bit what it takes to get a fairly simple plane to get the motors started right at the edge of the runway yourself. I'm going to set this little spot as a departure. So now we're at a parking ramp. The weather. It was kind of boring flying in clear weather because it was live weather and represent whatever you're seeing outside your window right now at that location. Or it was mostly blue sky, so I added a little bit of stratocumulus clouds. And I put it at 7:42 a.m. So we're going to be, no, I probably ought to make that in the p.m. because we're going to be flying east. I kind of want, for this flight, to have the sun at our backs. Maybe we'll make it about 4:30, 5 o'clock. That's close enough. 4:30, 5 o'clock. Okay, and then we'll just tell it to fly. This will start her up, put her down at that parking spot, and we'll do a cold and dark start, and give you an idea, and then take her off the ground and get her going, see how it goes. Shouldn't take too long. And again, this is my first video, so if I make mistakes, you'll see them. It's kind of like playing guitar and singing at the same time. You can do one, I can do one, or I can do the other, but doing both at the same time is not easy. And so that's why I'll be looking at this. I'll be paying attention to the volume of the microphones and maybe messing up what I should be doing as far as flying the plane. So please forgive me. And I know people do this day in and day out. More power to them. It's more than I can do, and I think they're really good at it. And one of them may even watch this later. We see. So here it is. Same specs, 135 knots. That's how high we can go. 16,400. 6 hours, 940 miles. And this is the airport we're at. And that's 74-mile visibility. 5 o'clock. Wind 6 knots. And we'll just get ready to fly. So here we are. This is a little freebie that I've added onto it. Tells me latitude and longitude, tells me how many frames per second I'm flying, what fuel is, the outside air temperature, 21 degrees Celsius, or I just turn it off, and I'm just going to turn it off. And while we're in the plane here, I'm just going to jump outside for a second. And this is what it looks like on the outside of the plane. So there was the tail number we gave it. This is known as the World Tour. And I temporarily moved the plane over here. See how they just walked right through it? But that's what they do. They just walk around. They help you come into the airports, but they're kind of magic. You can run over them and they don't really get hurt. As you can see, they're still walking. So we're on a golf tour. That's what I've been doing. I've been flying from Vancouver over to Ukraine, further east to the Black Sea, working my way back to Tehran. Just went over Noah's Ark 2 days ago, working my way toward Jerusalem and the 7 churches of the Book of Revelation before I get there. Finally hitting back all the way to Casablanca, up to New England, then the southeastern coast, out to Los Angeles. Then I was going to take Route 66 all the way around back up to St. Louis, which is pretty much where I live, and go by the Sooner platform on the way. But it could be a while before I get back there. So I figured I'd just take a little detour and get into it now. So this is the plane on the inside. Here they come again. It's interesting. Okay, I'm just going to walk around here. And while you can see the people in this plane from the outside, on this particular plane, you don't see them on the inside. They're invisible on the inside. But that's not true on all planes. Okay, so let's get started here. First thing we're going to do is we're going to turn on the battery and get the cover off. Turn the engine battery on. And then we're going to get the avionics. Oops. All right. We'll get the electric master on. And then we're going to go back over here. Avionics master on. I've got both avionics on here, the left and the right. And the right one is where our flight plan is located that I put in. And the one on the left is basically things that are taking place in the engine right now. And as you can see, there's no RPMs, there's no load, there's nothing happening right here, right now. So we're going to come down here a little bit. Whoops, that's the parking brake. And I'm just going to give a little bit of fuel here. Just start her up, just crack her up. And we got the fuel valve is on the normal position. Otherwise it would be in the off position. We'll go to normal right here. That's a trim setting. And we'll talk about that later as we start flying. And then there's the flaps position. We don't have any flaps at the moment. Flaps are up. And this would be one level of flaps. This would be two level flaps. In this case, I can see because they're right here. We're going to take off with one level of flaps. So let's go ahead. And this plane is a very simple plane. We're just going to go ahead and start the engine. And all I really do from here is just hit the start key. But then if I did that, you wouldn't see the motor start very well. So let's come back up here and try to do it. There it is. It started up. I don't want the RPMs to go too bad. But as you can see, as I did that, the oil temperature is coming up. Oil pressure came up with coolant, the fuel temperature. And we're about 2/3 full of gas right now. And there's the low RPMs. So I'm going to synchronize the heading right now. That's this blue marker right here that's facing the direction that we're going. And now just move back here. If you need to change the heading, I just do it that simple. We're in a 5 nautical mile range over here. Over here, I'm going to change this range. I'm going to move it in. You can see where we are here in the airport. And the wind is coming out of the northwest. So I think we're going to try to take off with the wind. We're going to try to come down here, turn around, take off this direction. So we'll be going left, right, down, turn around, and come back. And this is on 1,500 feet. We'll leave it right there for a moment. Let's look at our flight plan. When I said I did that load in there, it brought the flight plan all the way in. And these are the different locations that we're going to be stopping at, which are the same as these. KAHX, KHMO, KMKO, and then I had a few waypoints I put in here myself, one of them being Sooner Plant Farm, KT, KFOG. It's kind of in between these two. And I'll pull that over here. So if the wind is coming out of the north, while we're on the ground here, it might be easier to do this now, is on this flight plan, is bring this down. Sorry. That's changing this section right down here. I'm going to go back to the map only, the waypoints, the auxiliary information, customization of this plan, and the flight plan. I'm going to hit enter right here. I'm going to bring active plan, enter, and I'm going right here. I'm going to click on a procedure, and I'm just going to select the approach, hit enter, and it knows that we're going to be ending up at KFSM, Fort Smith, and these are the different possibilities. And we've got the wind, well, right now the wind's coming out of the northwest at 3. So it's coming out at 323 degrees, and it's Fort Smith. If I turn this off, and I bring this back over here again, let's go to Fort Smith. The wind in the map is right here at 3 knots. I go to Fort Smith, 323 degrees, and the wind is coming from this direction. So they don't really have an airport going or a runway going this direction. So one thing we could do is we could try to come in on O2, which would be kind of into the wind if we did this. So let's look for something with an O2 type setting here. Here's an RNAV right here. And what are our choices? Choices are, well, there's a visual O2. Let's try this RNAV LPV, lateral, and here we go. And that has us coming into here, runway 02. Or we could just do a visual in. A lot of times, like in the Middle East, I'm not finding real modified procedures, but I'm going to say let's come in on O2 with a visual. I'm going to say enter it, and we'll just come in with take this one to the straight. Okay, we'll start in here with vectors, enter, and then we're going to come all the way down to load. I don't want to activate it yet, I just want to load it into the system. So there we are. And now let's go back. Take the flight plan off. Over here we're looking at a 3 nautical mile range. And let's get in closer to the airport so we can see where we're going. Okay. So what did I say I needed to do? I need to go, basically I want to get down here and turn around. So I'm going to turn left, come down here, turn all the way around, and then we'll take off. So I'm going to turn left, which would be right here. Get out where those guys are. Turn around, come back. So, one thing we're going to have to do is take off our parking brake. This is our parking brake right here. And if I take it off, it's off now. This is the parking brake is locked. So I'm going to take the parking brake off. Come back up here. Not moving yet until we give it a little bit of gas. So let's give a little bit of throttle right here. I'm going to just bring this down a pinch. In my keyboard, I've mapped F2 and F3 for the throttle, so I don't have to go to my. I don't really have to go to my setting here for the throttle. I'll just give it a little bit. If I do it on my joystick, I get a lot of throttle at one time. And so I'm just gonna give a little bit of throttle. It started to move, and you can see we're at 17% of power. It's gonna be a little bit too much once we get started. So I'm gonna slow down a little and come out here. So I said we need to come down here. You can see the plane on the map moving down. We're gonna come down here. We're gonna look left, it's clear. We're gonna look right, it's clear. We're gonna go on through, and we're going to follow here. And we have something in here called synthetic vision. So if you look in the screen down below in this G1000, down in here, you actually can see the runway down there. If it's, whoa, it's looking good. Slow it down here a little bit. Because we're just going to come down here and we're going to turn around. To kind of go down here and turn around. I'm just going to take a shortcut right about here. Come over here. Gas. A little bit too slow. I've already checked out the altitudes around here. We don't need to get very high. And I think about 3,000 feet will be more than enough. But I do want to check one thing before we get going. And that is, how high do we really want to be? So let's line this up. Here. Let's idle it. Put on parking brake. And we need to set the altimeter. And that's right here. You can find out what it is yourself, or you can hit the letter B. And it's going to set it. This particular airport, pressure now is 30.53 inches, and we are 620 feet above ground. And it says I got the pitot heat off. I want the landing lights on. And taxi lights on. We got the stove on. And the stove lights on. And down here I want to get the pitot heat on. And that's pretty much it for this plane because there's not a lot to it. Just back off a bit. But I do want to go to the flight plan again. I'm going to go all the way down to the, oops. Well, I think I'm just going to set it according to my other map that we're going to go to about 3,000 feet. I think that ought to do it, and we can check on this as we're flying. So now we're on the runway, and I want this heading to be lined up with the runway. So that's where we are here. And I'm going to set the altitude to 2,700. That's probably pretty good. Close enough. And that's the glide slope whenever we get to the landing. And I think we can start right about here. Let's take this off for a while. Hit the full screen. Now we can bring the map back out again to about 7 miles. And there's our first turning point. And so let's turn on our flight director. And we're going to be doing a nose. We're going to be doing we got the altitude on here. So let's just start with this and get ready to fly. Put that, we need to change our CDI to GPS. Okay, so put on nav now. That's GPS, but the autopilot is not on. And I do want to get a vertical speed in here. Let's say we want to go up 300 feet a minute. We're not in a big hurry. We'll just take that, and all I have to do is hit the autopilot, where there's a button on my joystick to hit it, and that'll put us in autopilot mode. And we'll see how we do coming off the ground. Okay, so last look around. Here's with the lights on now. This particular plane only has one light on the left-hand side, and we don't really need it. You can see two lights down here. One's taxiing, coming out the taxi. The other one is the landing light. I'll just turn on the landing light for the moment. I'll leave it on until we get 1,000 feet or so. And I hit the end key and I'm back inside. So parking brake coming off. And we're going to throttle up. And you'll see the RPMs in here throttling up along right here, along with the percent of throttle that we have. You can hear it. Try to keep her centered. Always a little bit of right-hand turn to be done because the propeller is spinning to the right and it wants to throw the plane to the left. So I got to keep going right with it. More speed. Down here on the left, you'll see something around 65 knots. We're going to be taking off what they call rotate. So we're going to rotate right about here. Slow, gentle pullback. And we'll just keep going. One coming. And here I'd be putting the gear up, but we don't have any gear. And on this plane, so now when we get to a little bit faster, we'd be taking the flaps off. So let's just go ahead and take our flaps off. Right about here, notice the front coming down a little bit as we begin to pick up speed. We're now doing 81 knots down there, 83 knots. I'm going to trim this plane a little bit. And we are coming out. So I keep, basically I'm going to take my hand off the stick when I get it properly trimmed right here. Okay. I'm going to press on the autopilot button. Where is it? There. And so now we have autopilot on. We're on navigating, we're GPS, and we have a vertical speed climb. And let's just take a look around here a little bit and see what's going on. And over here in my map, center of the plane, see where I'm at. So we're heading back toward that first waypoint. I don't know if you guys know this area or not well. Doing 100 miles, 100 knots, 1,200 feet. And we are straightening out toward coming back to this blue line, or the purple line, magenta. So we're moving into here. We'll intercept it right about there. And you can see we'll come into here, we'll intercept it, and then we'll make the turn into the second flight waypoint. I don't know if the scenery right here is actually the trees have a little bit of a brown color to them. So I don't know if that's realistic or it's a bit of a drought or hot weather. I know it's exceptionally hot down there. Actually, you're 100 degrees today and we're 100 degrees today. And not pleasant. Not very pleasant at all. So we're cruising out here. We can just give it a little bit more power. I'm only at 68% power. I'm going to put up about 70% power while we're still in a climb before we get maximum speed. As you can see down here now, we're now catching the magenta flight plan, and we're captured it, and we are now moving in this direction. And if I get a little closer, that means we just captured it, and we have 2.2 nautical miles to go before we get to the next destination, and we are nearing there in 3 seconds. And we are now making a turn actually making it a little bit before we get to KMKO. So it's cutting it short and turning it here. Different GPSs do it differently. The Garmin turns early. The Garmin 750 turns right on the dime, and the 1000 turns early. So we're making a turn now toward that point, and capturing it in this little nav graph over here. As you can see it right here, this is the plane here at the moment. It's how we took off. That's passed so far. This is the arc here where we'll be at when we reach the maximum altitude, and we are turning into the plan. We're on our way to Fort Gibson, crossing over this 3 rivers coming together before we get over to Toluca, Sooner Plant Farm, and then working our way down the 10 Killer, down to here, back over there. So we're cruising at a pretty good speed right at the moment here. And there's a little button up here. I can tell it to automatically follow it. We're going to follow it, and it stays right on it here. So on my right monitor, I'm monitoring that. I don't really have to because I can see it right here as well. I just like to see it a little more detail on the right. So here we go. I don't really know a lot about this part of Oklahoma. Usually when I go through Oklahoma, I start at one end and go to the other. Usually come down 44 to Tulsa, head south down to Texas, where I have some relatives, or go further out to Arizona and just keep on going. So, but usually from St. Louis, we usually make it to about Tulsa on the first night. This is that little strip right here. Some people call it a banana ring. This is where we're going to be at when we reach 2,700 feet. We're climbing 300 feet a minute. We're 2440 now. And that gives you an indication of where we'll be when we get there. And our speed will pick up when we're there, because we're only doing 113 knots. And actually, while I'm doing that, let's talk about knots for a second. I'm going to bring up a little calculator on the computer here. And knots are 15% faster than miles per hour. So if I take 112 and take 15% off of that, which would be times 0.85. I'm sorry, wrong. Okay, if I take 112 times 1.15, that gives us, 1112 times 1.15. That means it's 128 or 129 miles an hour. We're now leveling off 2,700 feet, and notice that our speed is picking up to 119, 120 knots right in here at 70% power. The RPMs, if you notice here, I got the RPMs. I'm just trying to keep it without really getting it into that yellow range. I can bring it up a little bit higher in the power. And 2020 RPM, 72% of the power. Now we're at 132 knots. So 132 times 1.15. So now we're doing about 152 miles an hour. Just give you an idea of what that relates to. And they always, in the planes, for the most part, unless it's a really old plane, is always talking about it in terms of knots. So I'm up in the air. I'm going to reset my barometer to the B. We're still looking good, and we're cruising. On my other map, Fort Gibson Lake. I guess that's where we're going towards, which would be this area up here. And Fort Gibson Lake, then we're going to turn right east and head out toward Tahlequah Municipal Airport. Okay. Well, there's a place in Louisiana called Tallulah. So the Tallulah. I don't know if they're related, how that works, but it sounds familiar. Okay. Buzzing along here. At this rate, we won't be long. I'm just going to bring this in a little bit tighter here so we can see it a little bigger, a little better on the map right there coming in. So if you ask me, from just when I set up this plan, I thought there's a lot of lakes up here. There's probably a lot of good fishing around here too, and it looks enticing, very good fishing looking to me. The only thing you catch around here when you go fishing is mosquitoes, so I gave that up a long time ago. I didn't have much better luck in Mississippi. Only you get mosquitoes and snakes down there. Okay, so we're creeping in here. I'm just working on the GPS. In 4.6 nautical miles, same way, 4.6 times with 15% more. Tell you how many miles that is. Too bad they can't translate it automatically, but that's how it works. Now I'm gonna, like I said, I'm doing my first time video and audio, and I'm hoping not too loud on the audio because it's picking up a little bit of noise from the plane while I'm speaking to the microphone at the same time. So I won't really know that we're done, and I don't know what this looks like, but I'm recording to something that looks like this, and that's my desktop audio, which is the simulator. This is my microphone audio, and I'm using a Yeti microphone. There's a dial on here that I can turn, and it mixes the two together. So in the end, it's all one combined voice plus airplane at the same time. So a friend up in Vancouver, Dave McKee, he recommended this microphone, and so far I've been very pleased with it. It's real simple. It's USB. You just plug it in and go, and I think it's got a little potential. And it you can't see the mic, but it's got a ability to do front and back or left and right if you have two people talking at the same time and you're doing a dialogue with them. Or you can set it on the whole entire room and it'll do a 360 recording, or just front only, which is I'm basically front and just a tiny bit coming in from the back. So here we are. We're going to get ready to make our first turn here. I'm going to take us outside the plane and take a look. Here comes the turn. Okay. We're coming in pretty good. We had a little tiny storm today, and a neighbor up the street got hit by probably the one and only bolt of lightning that we had. She's only a third of a mile away, but it did some damage to her gas because she started smelling gas in the house. So she had the gas company out. The lost her satellite connections, internet connections, so she got them on the phone. And so she got hit by lightning and did some local damage. Um, that's about as close as I've known lightning to hit anything right around here. And oh, it wasn't. This is kind of funny, but it wasn't gas she smelled. It was probably the burning smell of the lightning hitting something on the house that she smelled. But what's going on right now is my wife and I both have Galaxy Active watches. They're about 3.5 years old. And while I'm helping a friend move or get his house ready for sale, something happened to mine and the thing kind of melted. And all of a sudden the inside started gooey sliding out. So I took it off, put it in a plastic bag, and took it up to Samsung to see if they could fix it. And they said no, they can fix the watches, the phones, because they're insured, and for $100 you get a new phone, but they can't fix the watch. And they're not that expensive. They're about $325, and if you buy one, you get the second one free. So I think we're going to be buying new phones, and as a result of that, because I've been out helping him, my wife gave me her phone, her watch to wear, but her watch is connected to her phone. So on her watch, on getting all her messages coming, that's how I knew we had a neighbor in trouble. So I had to stop and kind of help the neighbor a little bit and get her out of her pickle to get it straightened out. So let's hop back into plane. We're about 11 miles away from the next stop, which is 6.7 miles now, to this place right here, that Tulacqua. Tulacqua is where we're coming up to. And this flight's only going to take about a half an hour. Otherwise, I'm really using fuel from the left tank and not using fuel from the right tank. I'd have to be doing a fuel transfer from the right tank to the left tank. And you can see it coming down. There's the left tank, a little bit going down faster than the right tank. So for a few minutes, I'm going to go ahead and transfer a little bit of fuel. I'm going to get the right tank just a little bit beyond the 10, where we're going. That's telling me I got a fuel transfer going on. So we'll come back off of this a minute here. And so we're clipping along 124 knots. I say about 152 miles an hour. And now I'm going to do another thing. It's called the drone view. I'm going to hop in the drone. And I'm going to turn the landing light off. Okay. I'm going to hop in the drone. What's kind of nice about the drone is you can't really control anything in the plane from here, but you can get further away from the plane, and you can get up there and go into the plane, kind of tour through the plane, really, kind of fast. The drone's going pretty fast at this speed, so I'm going to put the plane up there, quiet down the noise, just to give an idea. We'll be doing this when we get to Sooner Platform, which is only, 16 miles away. With the drone, you can get down to ground level and check it out. And kind of while the plane's flying above, you're flying with the plane down at very low levels here. And while the simulator can look pretty good from up high, it can look pretty weird sometimes when you get down too close to the ground. I'm going to just do a turnaround here. Recognize some of the countryside. It's pretty flat down here. Drought must be going pretty good because it's pretty brown. few houses, a few barns. And we're clear by the direction. I'd say we're going right about here. I'm going to leave it on down here as we go through this airport. I guess that's Lulaqua. And we're going to be turning here in a second. I have a feeling we're already starting to turn right now. You guys can tell me if you recognize that. And now we're turning south, heading toward Sooner Platform, heading toward Park Hill. And I guess we're going to be right about this direction. But in here, I'm gonna bring the plane back up to the plane. One button, right up behind the plane again. We'll get inside where it's a little bit quieter. And I hope that's not too loud on the airplane motors. It seems kind of loud to me. We'll see how it is. If it gets really bad, I'll just have to stop and record this again. They say you should always try to put your heading in line with your flight plan. So if things go wrong with the GPS, you'll fly a line down that line right there. So now what I'm going to goal here is we're 5.9 nautical miles away from Sooner Platform. Still doing the fuel transfer. Now we got the one tank, but the right tank is now beyond the left tank. So I'm going to turn the fuel transfer off. That stopped our warning light here. And 5.2 miles. So we are flying toward this little mark right here. Let's zoom in a little bit on that, because I don't want to fly past it. I want to get to it without flying past it. So you can tell me if you recognize anything out here. Where that is I can get at the moment. I'm afraid that airplane noise is a little loud. I hope it's not too loud. Looking for the visuals more than anything else. And I guess I'm just going to have to learn to tweak my mix a little bit. More me and less of the airplane. But I don't really know how loud I am because I can't hear myself at the moment. So we're coming up 3.3 miles. 3.3 miles. 3.1 miles. Oh. I guess I can get this map over here. You got a little... You're going to be down in here somewhere. Maybe that's it right there. I can see it in a Google map, but I'm not really sure. I've never been there, so I don't know for sure what I'm really looking at. We get up to a certain point, 2.3 miles, 2.2 miles, oops, went the wrong one. Wrong monitor, 2.0 miles. And this is the user one. I kind of marked it out right to be stopping the plane right on top of the Sooner Farms. And we can see how that looks here in just a moment. I'll get too far. I don't want to get beyond it, is what I'm saying. Okay. So we're getting close. We're getting very close. And 1 mile to go. Over here, 0.9 miles. I'm going to hit a bracket key here, which for me, I've marked it to pause the plane, pause the simulator. It'll actually cut the noise down because I'm going to just suspend it in midair, hop in a drone, and go down to the ground. And we'll take a look at there. 0.3, 0.2, 0.1, and there we are right now. Okay, so now we got 5.8 miles to go to the next place. And I'm going to bring that in a little bit here. So when we get there, we'll be on a 5 nautical mile range. Okay, let's hop outside. Let's go back to normal view. And we're going to hop outside the plane in the drone. And the drone is controlled by this little taskbar up here. One of these called camera. And I'm going to set the camera at the moment just to get down to the ground at a little faster speed, maybe 50. So I'm going to start going down to the ground. I'm going to tilt the angle down here. And that's pretty much straight down below. And not really knowing exactly where it is, I'm gonna guess that this must be Sooner Plant Farm. Well, I think this is Sooner Plant Farms. I forget what that was. Um, and maybe these are the nurseries, the greenhouses that go with it. I'm just gonna guess that'd be the case. Up above. And when we get down to the ground, don't freak out on me. You're gonna get weird. You'll get weird when you see it from the ground, going ooh. Because when you get real close to things in the simulator, they don't look as good as they do when you're up above. Come on down. Okay. And I guess it would be. I don't know if you guys live right there at the nursery. When I didn't see these in Google Maps, and I am using Google Maps to do the geography. I should explain that. Google Maps is representing the roads and representing the terrain where the woods are. It doesn't necessarily mean those are Google woods that you would see if you wanted a satellite view. And the buildings in here, if they're not specifically created for the simulator, like a building like the Eiffel Tower, London Bridge, where they're handcrafted, these would be artificially generated based off of the Google Maps length, width, and height of the building, and then they artificially put a building in that they think would be representative of what's in this general neck of the woods. So the buildings we see here would be different than the buildings you'd see in Central Europe or England, and way different than what I'm seeing in the Middle East. So come down a little more here. Come forward here a little bit. And I do think that this is the farm, the nursery, and where you guys have supplied basically 2/3 of the plants in our yards. And with a few exceptions, we've had some problems, and probably me not treating them properly. Some either die back or die off. That when you get like 3 plants of the same kind, and one dies out, sometimes it's 3 years later. Sometimes it's just best to start over rather than wait for somebody to catch up to everybody else. So here we'll just do a slow buzz by. I'm sure these buildings do not look anything at all like what you're seeing, but the general shape and the roads probably might be in about the right place. I got a free add-on where they're adding in these towers. I don't know if there's a real tower there or not, but if you're flying along and you hit that tower, you're going to die. It's just going to stop you cold dead in your tracks. And the same with electrical wires on the ground. They will be enough to scare the daylights out of you. So what do we have down here? We have stuff. Don't laugh too hard. There's stuff in here. And I don't know if there's a hill in front of the house right there. But I'm just going to, maybe that's the store. I'm just going to go inside. Oh, there it is. Empty on the inside. Just do a look around here. These probably aren't the trees that are really in your property, but they're in the area. And this is the Microsoft version 2020. Version 2024 coming out is going to be better than this. It's going to have more trees in the geographic area that you're at, representing where you are. And they're going to automatically introduce seasons. So I have a seasons program that's making the trees turn colors at different times of the year. And every day it knows what day it is, and every day they turn a little different color. But it's going to be better when it's done automatically inside and internal to the program. So I don't know what that is over there. Don't know what that is over there. Or that over there. That's that tower. And in the distance, that's what you're seeing out there. Well, we're kind of paused here without the noise of the motors running for the moment. I'm just going to pull back here a little bit and see more of the nursery. And I'm going to give a little bit of an example. I kind of lost our balance here. I'm going to change the clouds so you get an idea. So in live weather right now, if I click on live weather, this is what you would be seeing. I would be seeing if I was down there right now. And I've artificially set the time to 5:44. But if I set the time to real time, it would be looking like this right now. Might get a little bit dark by the time we get back to Fort Smith. But so I wanted a little more daylight. So I'm going to bring the time back a little bit. Here. Give us time to get back in daylight. We'll have a little bit of a sunset behind us. That's what the real weather looks like right now. But you can change all different kind of clouds out here. A little bit fluffier, lighter. Just a few clouds. Crisp and clear. You can set the temperatures, the precipitation, low clouds, occasional drizzle. Good idea. And if it's really raining outside, you would get real rain. This large loose assemblies has a little bit of rain in it from time to time. Heaps of clouds. And then you can get winter sky with snow. Snow on the ground. I got a lot of weather in here. Dense fog. Heavy fog in here. London fog. And light fog. Not so bad. And London weather. Misty. Misty. Not too bad. I don't see any. Well, it loaded in. It took a while, but it got here. And I've been flying in the Middle East. The clouds. It's Sparky's Rain. Another flight simulator named Sparky. I guess it's an airport out in the distance there. And he kind of gave me this one. And on top of that is a creepy Halloween. Got lightning and thunder. Kind of fun. Looks interesting going over tall mountains. But I think this one gives a lot of dimension. High level clouds. Kind of brings out the shadows on the ground a little better. And if I set the time back a little more. You can see how depending on the sun coming through the cloud. Oh, and at nighttime you would have stars up above that would become visible up there. You can start to see them coming in now. And the lights down below. I turn this off for a second and just turn around. You can see what the view is at the nighttime. Before I learned how to fly, I had to learn how to navigate because I discovered that once you get 20 miles away from home, your chances of finding the airport by just turning around and going back are pretty slim. And as a result, I learned how to navigate. But before then, before I could navigate well, I would kind of cheat and turn things into darkness so I could see airports in the distance, guide my way into them, and then kind of dead reckon my way into them until I got close enough where I could turn it back to daylight and see, here we go, see my way to land. Okay, I'm going to click this one button, get right back up to the plane. I'm going to hop inside the plane. And there was a bracket key that I used for the pause. We made that turn, and we are now working our way up to the next waypoint here, which is 10 Killer Lake, which I guess is this lake right here. Stay right here. Oh, now that we changed weather, I needed to reset my pressure. We were at 30.53, and I'm going to set it, and now we're at 29.92. That changed the altitude. We told it to lock in on 2,700 feet. So now it's climbing 500 feet a minute, 450 feet, and it's going to level off here in a moment at 2,700 feet. So let's, I'm just curious, getting into this flight plan. Wait a minute here. I'm going to get level detail on the map. And I want to get to so when we start coming into these pieces, can I get down below here? Can I bring it down? Like that. I want to get to here and enter and work my way down. Flight plan. Okay. That's not right. Okay. Flight plan. Flight plan here. What I'm trying to get down to is down below this. Find out what altitude we need to be at when we get there. So, VNAV D. So VNAV. And the profile. Can I get down here? There we go. I look at VNAV. So when we get into the final, we need to have an altitude of 1,278 feet. And we're coming at 2,700 now. So I'm going to reset while I'm in here. Reset my altitude to 1,278. Set it to, whoops, sorry. Set my altitude right here, 1,278. And all I really got is altitude. So I'm going to put it down to 1,200. Just be a little bit under it. And then I'm going to set my minimum here because the airport itself is at the airport itself is at 452 feet. So I'm going to set that to 650 feet, where we're going to be at what they call the minimum, 200 feet above a 3-degree slope down. I lose that. Must have been bumping that too hard. Okay. And now I want to get the VNAV, enable VNAV. And I think we're good here. So we can get rid of the flight plan. Go back to here. Let's look out. Here we are now, flying over this lake. This bead of water coming down this country. Like I said, and I do have an add-on that shows you ships, vessels, and yachts out there in the oceans and Mediterranean, but I'm not seeing any right here at the moment. And I'm sure there's probably 100 bass boats out here right now working their way around. Okay, so I'm up here where we are going to be making this turn in a moment. And we're really, we're going to be flying all the way down the lake, over here, down and across the reservoir down here, reservoir. And then we'll be working our way to Fort Smith. So that's really not all that far away. And just back over here. concentrate on what I'm doing here. Okay. Need to get the focus back over here again. Maybe that's a little too dark. Let's just get a little more daylight in here. You can see better here. I saw a headlight over there, or landing lights from an airport. Maybe that's too many clouds. Let's take it off all these clouds. Let's go back to the easier clouds. This right up here. Maybe here. Few clouds. Ooh, we got snow. And mostly clear. Try a little more cumulus. We'll go back to this one again. And we'll set the time a little bit further down. 6 o'clock. Okay. Reset my barometer. Now our altitude had changed when we changed the weather. So it's going to take care of that for us. Hitting the next waypoint. And we're going to be cruising down the little river here. Heading toward, taking it this bigger res line here is going to be this one out up ahead. We're going to be coming up and we'll be turning left up there, heading down this way. Not really ready to activate the approach because we're not, I want to do that on the final leg. And on the final leg, that approach is going to be 22 miles from that airport, the final one. So we have plenty of time to do that. If I do it early, funny things start happening, and sometimes funny things happen anyhow. So we'll just come down, keep going, and we'll talk about, I don't really know what they do down here. I know Will Rogers came from down here, and I think he was more western Oklahoma, but I don't really know his story. I do know that when Will Rogers and Wiley Post were doing their trip up there northwest on their way to Alaska, coming back from Alaska, I forget which one it was, but their plane had crashed shortly after takeoff, and I remembered it was in a pretty remote area, cold weather, bad time of year, and so they didn't have a lot of pilots wanting to really go up there and bring the bodies back home. But there was a pilot who volunteered to do it, and his name was Charles Lindbergh. So he rented a plane, or took his own plane, I don't know which one. He went up to the location, and they had the bodies in a coffin, 2 coffins. He loaded them into his plane, and he flew them back down, I guess, to Seattle. And then put them on trains and took them back probably to Oklahoma, where he's buried. So he had a hand in Will Rogers and Wiley Post's death. And unfortunate incident, and I don't really know a lot about how the plane crashed. I just know shortly after takeoff that it pretty much went straight down into the ground. Something went wrong. You guys probably know the story a lot better than I do. He sounded like a good man. We need more of them. We need a lot more of them. Okay, so we're coming up here just a few miles, just 1.3 miles, and we're going to be turning again, following the river here on your left. Right down here is a bridge. One down there. That's Highway 40. I've been down that road. Okay. Highway 40. There's 10, 20, 40. The big road, major road. And I guess we could thank Adolf Hitler for these interstate highways because of World War II. Hitler had already put in his roads to move his armies around, and that was the reason he put them in. It wasn't so much for the people as it was for the military. So they did the same thing here. We built the interstates, and that's how they came to be, my understanding. Okay, now we're cruising with the tailwind. Now we have a tailwind at our back, building up speed. Now we have a 123 knots going toward 124. We have a wind of 7 miles an hour, and our true airspeed right now is 129 knots on the ground, which would be a little more than 150 miles per hour. We're making good time in a little plane, and this is a pretty little plane. It's carbon fiber, very light. It's a Diamond 4-cylinder turbo engine, runs on jet fuel, and flies very stable, and looks nice. And Cindy, my wife, is in here with me. We also have the ability now to put a dog in the plane. It's a free add-on. They're free add-ons. So we're cruising down, and you can see the ground behind you. Looking nice. And there's a lot of places in here to go fishing. Really, it's quite spectacular. See the glory. Okay, back inside. It's a little quieter in here. I hope that motor noise is not too loud. So at the end of this lake right here, then we're going to be turning left right toward the very end, I guess way down here, and turn left, go north to Salisal Municipal Airport. I guess that's the town of Salisal, and then headed on into Fort Smith. So went to Fort Smith on 40. In fact, if I remember right, we took 40 out on vacation from Mississippi one time, up to Fort Smith, and went up to Wichita, Kansas for the night. Spent the night. Man, we were surrounded by grain elevators. And I was in the grain elevator business. I used to work for Bunge, and was running 28 grain elevators down in Mississippi, Arkansas, Louisiana, and Florida. And so in Wichita, it was nothing but tall elevators, and it was witchy that night. It was thundering, lightning, no rain, howling winds, and you went outside to unload the car, and you just about got blown away because we were like captivated in between grain elevators, and the wind just howled in between us. Quite a moment to behold. I just move this microphone up a little bit here, thinking that I'm going to capture more of my mic and less of the motor, and we'll find out how that goes. So I just turned it up 2 notches. Well, hopefully that comes out okay. I'm experimenting for the next time. I've done a couple dry runs. In the beginning, the video was absolutely terrible. It was all choppy, and the plane was hesitating, like almost half-second jerks between this program, to do a screen capture of it at the same time, and that takes horsepower, so it wasn't performing well. And then I just gotten a big upgrade in the Microsoft Flight Simulator yesterday, and that changed some of these settings in the graphics to make them a little higher than it could handle, trying to do a screen recording and fly at the same time. So I had to sacrifice a little quality to do a little better flying here. A little bit of recording, I mean. Hey, we're coming in on the next turn. Actually, that would be this one right here at the end of the lake. Probably way down there. And then we turn, and on the leg in, then we'll be setting up the approach, turning on the approach, and let it try to do its own way in. We'll see how well it behaves. If I can't get it corrected in a decent amount of time, because I don't want the video to go on forever, then I will just take it off autopilot, hand fly it in, I take it off autopilot anyhow as I get close to the airport, close enough that I want to make sure that it's coming along okay. And we're about to the point we're going to make this turn. And then after that, I think we just have 22 miles to go. I'm just going to take the throttle back just a little bit to 70% and begin to start to slow this plane down. We're flying with the wind at our back right now. Take it down about 65% power. I'm looking at right here at the moment, 65% power, and the RPMs are still right up there at 1990. Still cruising, still doing 118 knots. Wind at our back. Okay. Technically, there's no airport. I just made an imaginary waypoint here in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the lake. Right about here is where I put it. So if I was using the Garmin GTN 750, it would fly right to here and then turn left. But as I can see here, it's going to turn left before we get to this point. So I'm guessing at any moment now we're going to start to see a left-hand turn. Swing around, get out over this bridge over here. And past that bridge, we're not going to go over it. Get pretty close. So let's just look out here. What's it look like? You guys probably driven around this lake. My guess is if you had kids who were in scouts, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, they're probably all right back in here too. Okay. World Tour. That's us. You're part of the World Tour right now. So we are getting ready to take this turn in 4 seconds. Here we go. We are engaged in the turn. At least we've got a bit of a hill here. I see a road going over the hill. That's got to be 40. Or 59, Highway 59, based on another map. So I'm going to come out of this turn, straighten out, and we will set ourselves up for the landing approach. And no, I'm wrong. We got to go to Swallow's Nest and then head it in from there. So the approach is not showing on the map, or at least not yet. We're going to go here and we're going to see what happens because we should be from here turning right. And that is not showing up on the map. Why would that not be showing up? Why would that be? Flight plan. Because then we're going to be coming into KFSM, which is right here with a visual. I guess it's not going to draw the visual on the map. Maybe I need to set a setting, and I don't want to do that on this time because it'll take too long. We're going to be here. We're almost coming up on it now. So we'll just hope it finds it and gets our way in there. Okay. I'll be watching on another map I have off to my right. Let's take a look at that again. So then it'll be... That's at 1,278 feet. Yeah. So, Cindy just came in here to say something to me. Say hi.
Who is it?
You're being recorded.
Who is this?
This is the going over Sooner Plant Farm.
Oh.
We just went across Sooner, and I'm working my way back now to this point right here. We turn right, and we land over here, and then wrap it up. So it's only 22, 28, 30 miles away.
Okay, well, hello, Sooner.
He also is engaged in buying the plants, so we do everything together. We talk everything over, and then we make our move. So he's been involved in the landscaping since day one when we built the house. Unfortunately, we didn't know you existed then, so we had to find you before we could get all the trees from you. But we've done pretty well by you. Okay. And we believe in the things that you do and what you stand for, so praise God. Okay, so we're going to be turning right here in a moment. We'll set up this navigation when we get to the final leg. So we're going to be going right. This is going to be out that way, and I guess somewhere out here is what we're looking for. Okay. I'm going to just slow her down a pinch more. That's when we have the 22 miles to go. I'm going to take it back to 60% power right here. 117 knots. And here comes a right-hand turn. There we go. And we are turning right. And, better yet, it found the flight plan. It didn't put it on the map, but it found it. I can see it here, it just didn't draw it on the map, and I don't know why. So I'll have to look into that. The Garmin 1000 isn't my first choice of GPS systems, so I need to learn how to use it and use it more often. So here we go. We're going into, I'm going to set the approach on here now. So I got the glide path established, and over here on the approach with the flight pad, we have here now we need to flight plan, enter, activate the flight plan, enter. So we are on it here. Enter. And we have the approach ready. And I also had a VNAV set here. So we have a VNAV. We should be doing a VNAV approach. Hopefully we're going to be okay. And if not, we'll have to lower our altitude. I don't see the V path up here. So I'm going to hope it and then profile. Okay. Well, we're going to cancel the VNAV, and we are going to we're just going to manually lower our altitude. I don't really see any hills between here and there, but we got to get it down to 1,200 feet, and when we get close to it, we're still pretty far out. I'm just going to wait till we get a little closer. I don't know if it's going to be flickering on the video, but I got a flickering light right here. I didn't have that before, and I don't know why now. And it's kind of messing up. The distance is 18.9 nautical miles. So we'll just cruise along here for a minute. I guess over here we're still trying to set something. What is this? Flight plan altitude. It should be a descent of 3%. Okay. Enable the VNAV. And the target. I'm just going to leave that go. And enter this. Okay, well, I wanted to get the active key. Procedure. Activate. Oh, I want to activate the approach. Here we go. Okay, now we got it down here. Okay. Now we have a flight plan. We didn't have it activated. Okay. Well, we were flying way off base. You can't see it there very easy, but we were way off base. Now we're coming back on base. Gonna get in line here. Swing it around, bring it in. Get back on here. And now let's see if we can get the, whoops. I can get that VNAV to work. Cancel VNAV direct. Okay. We have a top of descent here in 7 minutes. But I still don't see VNAV activated. And I don't know what FPA means, angle of attack. Put it to here to 3 degrees. Enter. Okay. I'm just going to leave that there. 1880, 1278. And if it doesn't start descending in 7 minutes, then we will override that and start bringing it down ourselves manually with a vertical speed descent. And we'll tell it to go down so many feet per minute. And I didn't really want to calculate it. It's worked before. I'm not sure why it's working a little different in this plane. There's another plane very similar to this called the Cirrus SR-22. It's a turbine or turbo engine, but it's not a diesel, and it can go a little faster. This plane can go a little higher. So I used this to go over some tall mountains recently, and I used this on my way to Mount Ararat and checking out Noah's Ark because I know it could handle the hills, and there's some steep hills in that neck of the woods. Okay, so we now have 14 miles to go. 14 miles. And the top of the descent, let's look at that again, is in 5 minutes. TOD, top of descent, 5 minutes. Coming in. And plus the FPL. View the previous page. Okay, well, we're locked in. VNAV. Still don't see a VNAV. I still don't see a VNAV going up in here. It should say V path, and I'm not seeing that. But I think we're getting closer. And 12.4 miles. Let's just slow her down a little bit more. I'm going to bring her down to about 50% power. We can, getting the RPMs to slow down a little bit, 1930. They seem to be pretty constant though, just the amount of power we're putting behind it. We're getting the plane down to 112 knots, and we have a G here, which means we have a glide path activated, but it hasn't turned on yet into glide path. I'm going to make sure one more time we are on approach. Now, took it off and put it back on glide path. Okay, so we're not quite there yet. And 3 minutes, 37 seconds. If it doesn't start to go down by then, we will manually bring it down to 1,200 feet. And at this point, I think the range we'll just tighten that in a little bit. We can see where we're going. Over here, I'm going to do the same thing because when I get on the ground, I want to see the runway. I want to see the runway pretty good so I know where to turn the plane. I didn't really look at this airport with a map to figure out what direction the runways are going. We're kind of heading south of the airport, and we're going to be turning around and heading north. So we're going to get a bit of a crosswind coming in, and that's the advantage of this little plane, is the wind's going to be coming from here toward this in that direction. And you can see the little skinny fuselage back there because of the composite material. As a result of that, the wind's kind of coming in like this. It can slip past this without having to go across a big wide body and not swing that tail around so much back and forth like this, coming like a dog cross-leg into a landing. Heading that direction. Get back inside. And are we at the top of the descent yet? We have a minute 55 seconds to go. When that, what I'm hoping happens, when that gets to 10, then we're going to start to see this coming down until we approach 1,200 feet. And then eventually the glide path will kick in and it'll take over and bring us all the way down to the runway. We'll take it off before we quite get there. So a minute and 28 seconds. Not quite there yet. Minute and 11 seconds. Minute and 9 seconds. Just trying to watch this a little bit here. And speed is looking good. Everything's still normal here. We haven't changed anything. You can see we're going to make a turn up ahead. Too early to put on the flaps because we haven't got our speed down to the white bar. This is where we can get our flaps to start to come on. And 44 seconds. 41 seconds. We'll see if anything's here, but I don't see the V path up there. And I still try to activate it one more time. I'm clicking the button, but there's nothing happening there. Okay. 16 seconds. 16, 12. Oh, we're on the glide path. We caught it. The V path did work. And we are starting to descend now 300 feet. And we're coming down where we should be. We're going to come down to 1278. And then we'll just do a smooth, steady descent all the way into the landing. So now it's kind of like riding a bike. We're going downhill. If we're going downhill, our speed is going to be increasing. And we're going to need to be slowing it down. So I'm going to be bringing down the throttle here, bring it down to manifold pressure, percent of power. I'm going to take it down to about 33. Try to get our speeds to slow down. You can see we're speeding. That was an indication that we had a turn up ahead, that beep. And we're on the glide path, coming down. And that's that little pink triangle there is where the path should be lining up with this mark right here. And from here in, on the next turn coming in, I think it's just going to be straight in to the airport. Get that speed down some more. We're down to about 22, 20. I may have to speed it up when we get a little closer. Doesn't know about where the runway is, but I think that might be the runway right there. Not sure. Maybe it's a little beyond that. We're straightening out. There it is, way up there. Oh, maybe that is it. We are coming down. And I need to get the speeds down some more. I guess I could really idle her down. We're going to put in the first level of flaps. We are down to the white bar here. Here comes the first level of flaps. That'll bring our speed down. And so that does look like the airport. I zoom in here a little bit. I guess that's it right there. That looks like an offshoot of it. Not sure which one of those is the airport. I don't want to get the speed too slow. or we'll drop out of the sky. We'll have a hard left-hand turn and crash. And I've done that before. And it's
500.
not a lot of fun. Okay, we're going to put in the second level of flaps. Maybe a little bit of power. Don't want to get too slow, but I do want to slow her down. We got to get prepared to go around if something goes wrong. It looks to me like that big tarmac in the middle is where we're headed for. This kind of green circle indicates a little to the right. We're going straight, a little to the right because the wind is pushing us. Here we go. We're going to need a little more power. I don't want to drop off now. Don't drop off on me. Don't conk out. Not here. Not now. Not yet. Not no way, not no how. Here we go. Keep going. Keep going. And we're doing pretty good here. Sometimes the simulator wants to put big tall trees right at the end of the runway. We hope that they get that thing fixed going into the 2024 version. So right here, I'm going to take it off autopilot. And I'm hand flying it right now. I'm going to stay on about this same slope. And I'm going to start cutting the power. Those two little white dots up ahead, ideally that's where we want to be putting the wheels down. So I'm just going to cut the power. And we're going to glide her in. And flare it out a little bit. Right. Are the turnoffs. I guess I should have turned off right about there. Because I think, let me just pause it. Where is the runway? There's the airport there. Bigger airport over here. We're a little plane. I think we're expected to come over there. That's us on the ground. So I'm just going to come up here. And I'm going to turn left and go over here and look for a place to park it. Where the little guys in the park here today. Okay. Back inside. Get her going. Break her down. Slow her down. Oh, too slow. No power. You can see that runway in the middle of the screen now. The yellow line is lining up where I'm landing in on it. And I just follow the yellow path all the way back in. Too slow. No more power. Seems like it's going too slow, and then the next thing you know, you're going too fast. Come on over here. Then we'll look for somebody down there. And we'll see if we can find anybody. What are you doing in there? Run over you. So if anybody's out there standing around, nothing to do, and we'll give them something to do. I see a guy out there, kind of waving us on over this way. So let's come on in here. Looked like a guy. Is that a guy? Huh? He's saying come around this way. Come around this way. Come around. Come on, come on. Don't want to run him over. Creep her way in. Ready to hit those brakes. Come on in. Come on down. The water's fine. Come on in. Well, I don't think I'm going to go any closer than that. He will usually give you scissors, but I'm not straight on, so about as close as we're going to get here today. We'll put those parking brakes on. Down, take a look. Yeah. See, I should have been a little straighter on them right here like this. Put them at an angle. Or maybe I should get a little closer, but I don't want to chop them up. That wouldn't be good etiquette, I don't think. This wouldn't be the proper thing to do. What do you think? Take the brakes off, try it again. Tricky. Not worth the risk. Okay. Put that in there. The brakes on. Okay. Welcome everybody. We have made it to Fort Smith Regional Airport, and the ground crew is going to come out here and start taking care of us. Put our tie downs, everything like that. I'm going to go ahead and bring our flaps up. We had 2 notches of flaps in here. Then bring it up again. Put all the flaps in. Put the headlights off. Get inside the plane. And quiet her down. That just wasn't straight enough. Okay. So what are we going to do here? We're going to turn. Let's get in closer. Let's turn off our VDOT heat. We don't need that anymore. We're not transferring fuel. And the left and the right, we're just about the same coming into the landing. We don't really need the avionics on anymore. And we can get rid of okay. Let's get our exit lights on. No, they're off. They're off. Never did turn our landing lights off. All these lights off. And come down here. And let's set our fuel off. Missed the color going down. Okay. And now we still got to get the battery turned off. And then we can get rid of the power here. Turn the key off. And we got everything off. Actually, I think I want to leave that off there. Okay, so there is our first landing. And you got to see what it's like. I'm going to just pop up here in that thing again here. We'll get a little higher up. Take a look at your airport. And then we will shut her down for the night. So let's go to the left. I think I'm looking. Well, the sun's setting in the west. So this would be looking south down here. I guess you could see the Ozark Mountains. And hangars and things. Burning rubber on the tracks. We landed on a little skinny runway. It was best suited for the wind that we had today. And so I guess the primary airport is down there. I probably should have seen if we had a real airport to fly into here. I mean, you can get a lot of free airports, and add them into the sim. They don't cost anything, and they would just automatically load in when they get to the airport here. Okay, everybody. Well, I think that is going to conclude our flight. Hope you had a good time. I had a good time, and so you can get this up on YouTube. If it sounds good, if it doesn't sound good, then we'll do it again. Okay, we'll catch you later. Been a pleasure. Thank you. Bye-bye. We'll come here to the main menu. Click main menu, control. Go back to the main menu. And there's the famous song of Microsoft Flight Simulator. And I'm going to get ready to stop the recording in a moment. I'll just take it back to the beginning and you can see anywhere in the world. This is how you end it. There's different things. They even have sales in the marketplace. You can go buy things on sales. A lot of different options in your personal profiles that you can set. I'm just going to quit to the desktop. Yes, I'm sure. And we're going to bring her down. And then we'll just stop recording. That's why I had that up. Checking my monitors. And we'll close this. And stop recording here. You can't see her, but that's Miss Cindy right there. Okay. Hey, we'll catch you later.